Thank you. So happy to be here tonight, and thanks for coming out. Wonderful place to have a meeting and get to know each other. So I'm Linda Saindon. I'm the founder of Alchemic Solutions, LLC. So I have my own consulting firm around marketing strategy. I consult with mid-sized businesses and up and help advise them on digital and social media and marketing planning and things of that nature. So I think I'm a pretty good person to talk about disruption. I think I've been a disruptor, and I think I've been disrupted more than once. I think I've been disrupted right into this room after leaving the corporate world and striking out on my own a couple of years ago. And as all the ladies mentioned, that whole community part and what Vicky's trying to foster here in Deb and Anna is so important to helping us all advance. So I'm really happy to be here. So when I think about, I was planning the talk out tonight and wanted to, have a little bit of an analogy around it and some things that you'll remember. And Leah's going to write and draw while I'm talking so that we'll have a little bit of a lead behind, and we'll actually email that out to everyone tomorrow when we get that digitized. So you can look forward to that as well. So I was a disruptor many years ago when I was at Kraft Foods. I was doing some really early work around community. I launched a community at Kraft Foods, and I was actually one of the, I would say, more digitally savvy people there, which was that was great. That was fantastic. I left Kraft Foods and I went to Sears Holdings, and I was director of social media marketing for a couple of years. And I was one of the less digitally savvy people at the time. So I felt a lot of disruption there, and there was a lot of change, and it was a fast pace, and it was really, really challenging. And I'm here to share a few of the tips that I've learned since that time and those experiences to help manage, first understand and then manage disruption. And I think of disruption as change on steroids. So it's very fast, things are happening quickly, everyone's feeling it personally and professionally. And we have to start to have a framework in our own minds on how to manage it. So one of the things that people are talking about a lot right now is the concept of VUCA. Has anyone heard that term before?
What is it?
VUCA. VUCA, V-U-C-A. So VUCA is actually a military term, and it stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Okay, and it was the U.S. Army War College invented that term after the Cold War to characterize the landscape of what we could expect and what they could expect in terms of dealing with the geopolitical landscape. So VUCA is increasingly being used in a business context to characterize what's happening. So everyone's feeling this. There's change coming from all directions, and we really want to find a way to manage that. So one of the ways to manage those different waves I found is learning. So learning and agility are two things that I found are just paramount to managing change. So a learning organization from a corporate perspective, fostering learning, fostering experimentation, being okay with failure and everything not working out perfectly, I think is a really big deal in a corporation. And learning and fostering that type of culture. And then personally, I think learning is really important, diving deep. You said you want to really get into it, diving deep into your particular industry, whatever that is, becoming a thought leader in your industry, whatever your industry is, I think is a really key part of becoming an expert and able to anticipate change in your industry. And continue to manage that volatility. The second idea is around agility. So Agile Development, if anyone's dealt with software developers ever, right? So Agile Development is a process to quickly iterate around an idea or a product and get it out the door, get some learnings in terms of how people are using it, and then bring it back in, iterate some more, push it out again, and it's kind of a continuous cycle. So that learning and that testing and doing it very quickly. So the speed is really key there. being quick to get out there. It doesn't have to be perfect when you get it out there. You learn from it, and then you move on. So I think of this like I wanted to draw a little analogy here. So I wanted to think of it like surfing. So surfing, there's a lot to learn if you've ever tried surfing, right? I tried it. I'm terrible at it still. I'm not good at it, but I love trying. And there's a lot of different pieces that go into surfing, right? So you need to learn how to get up on the board, and you need to recognize a wave, and you need to swim out there, and you need to actually get going as fast as the wave. So there's all these different factors, right, coming at you. And at the same time, you have to be really fast, right? So there's a lot of learning, and there's a lot of speed. Learning and agility, it's kind of that circle that keeps repeating. And so to ride those waves of VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, learning and agility are the real keys in my mind. So, and then there's there's a couple other things that I think also I've learned over the years that have really helped in terms of managing complexity and managing change. The first one is that sense of community. Your network, I think, is really, really important. So network, some people say your net worth is your network, right? But I think the work part of your network is really important too. So reaching out, making those connections, not just when you need something, but helping, when someone else needs something, and staying connected in your industry, whether it's events like this, whether it's classes. I tend to take a lot of classes and things, and I start to connect with people through those. I volunteer. I'm on a board for a charity, for example, and I'm connecting with people in that way too. So kind of bringing those together, and I think it's all the more important if you're a gig worker and you're a consultant, you're out on your own, you need to be making those connections with people and fostering that sense of community. So I think that part is really, really important. Another part of this is grit. Sand is grit. It's really important to start to feel a little bit more comfortable with failure, and that you keep trying, you keep iterating. I think even, we had an initial meeting around the Change.Create.Transform platform last year, and I was like, I don't quite understand it. I think it's, I think I'm getting it, and I think it's a good idea. And I think the whole point is we're sort of creating this together, and we're iterating into what this needs to be, right? And how it's going to serve all of us. So, having the grit to keep trying things, I think, is really, really important. And that resilience is really important. And then the last part is really much more, more of a personal nature, but I find mindfulness, whatever that means to each of you, but mindfulness, I think, is so important to be able to have clarity in your own mind when all these changes are happening, and to have discernment around making choices when the choices aren't always totally clear. So whatever your flavor of mindfulness is, it might be meditation, it might be yoga, it might be prayer, might be all of the above or something else. But I think that mindfulness part, when things are kind of raging overhead, you can still be calm in your center. And I think that's, now more than ever, with digital overload and things like that, I think that mindfulness part is really key. So, my hope is for you is that you're able to ride those waves and understand the changes that are coming in your particular industry, and take advantage of a couple of those tips and be inspired. So, yeah. So those are a few of my thoughts. And I can take some, if you guys have questions, we have a little bit of time for questions, and we can chat a little bit. Any thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned that Disrupt is change on steroids.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's the end game of Disrupt?
That's a great question.
Linda, can you repeat that for us?
Yeah, so she said if Disrupt is change on steroids, what's the end game? And I think that's a great question. I think, in my mind, I'm not sure there is an end game. I think because of the forces, the VUCA is one thing, but most of this change is really being driven by all the market forces around digital and data, and we're becoming increasingly digital, and there's I don't want to get into too much detail around that, but it's really being driven by that, and I'm not sure there's an end game. I think it's a matter of getting comfortable with things happening really quickly, things changing really quickly, being able, that learning part, like being able to quickly pick up and learn something. It's a piece of software, it's it's constant contact, or it's social media, or it's suddenly, my doctor's office is doing something completely differently digitally, and I need to figure out the patient portals. It could be any of those things, but I'm not sure there's an end game, and that's why I say learning plus agility. That idea of Agile development where you're constantly iterating. I think that's just going to continue. I really feel like that's just going to continue. So I hope that's probably not the answer you wanted. It's not the answer I want either, but yeah.
I have an observation. I lead a team of graduate students and work with an external consultant, and we do Agile Development.
Oh.
And so one of the observations that I have based on some of the things you said and some of the things that I know about Change.Create.Transform is that one of the problems with Agile Development in the context of creating a product is that because of the time component to deliver the product to market, to be able to tap into the resources that you need to adjust as you're going through the iterative stages of Agile Development requires that you have a pretty extensive network of resources, of people who have skill sets. And I think that's what Change.Create.Transform is all about. Mm-hmm. Or not all about, but it's one of the components that it's about.
Yeah, being able to pull in other expertise to help problem solve, absolutely.
And quickly, because when now to deliver a product or service, whatever it might be to market or to your client, quickly, if there's a need that you don't have that resource readily available to you, you're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually experiencing that with an external consultant right now.
Oh, interesting.
They've experienced some changes in their staffing level unexpectedly,
yep.
and now your ability to adjust and adapt to that agile cycle is challenged.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're truly doing product development, the time sprints are pretty short. They're a couple of weeks, but it depends. Being agile, there's there can be longer sprints for certain things. If it's not a product and it's a project or it's marketing or something, the time boxes can be different. But I hear what you're saying around pulling in other resources and getting a quick answer. Anyone here use Slack? Use Slack? Yeah, couple. Slack might be a great thing to consider actually for Change Create, because you can very quickly, it's basically like a messaging app for teams, and it's a way to really quickly get an answer if you need something from a teammate, or your community, for example, you can get an answer really quickly. So I'm not committing you to anything.
That's okay.
But,
yeah.
So, Linda, I just wanted to say that your remarks are perfectly timed for me. I have long been a disruptor in the traditional media business, and then I was disrupted, and I very recently have been hired by an organization to be the disruptor again. And so I've been in this new role for about 12 minutes. And it's useful and inspiring to hear tonight a reminder of why it's so important to be able to lead change, and why it's really a gift to be somebody who can recognize and embrace change and bring people along. So anyway, I wanted to say thank you, and
Yeah,
thank you
you're
to
welcome.
Deb for inviting me here this evening.
Can I just make one comment, Joyce? I was hoping you would comment. Do you mind telling us, when you talk about being disrupted and being a disruptor, what your background is?
Oh, no,
Because
not,
it'll really bring it home. Yeah.
not at all. I was in the traditional media business for years, first many years as a reporter and editor, and then after going to business school as an executive at Tribune Publishing, and was fortunate enough to play a critical role in our digital transformation there, and then led a business unit for Tribune Content Agency and global syndication and licensing business. Also an organization that really needed to be disrupted. And then with a change in leadership and a reorganization, suddenly I was disrupted. So it was a really important learning experience for me. So thank you.
That's great. Yeah, that's a great case study, and it's true. It's like it's all around. You know, it could be the context of where you are, right? You might be the smartest disruptor in the room, or you might be learning from everyone else. I think it depends on where you are.
Yeah, it's rarely personal.
Yeah.
Always both.
Yeah, exactly. Any other questions or anything to add? Anyone else? No? Okay, good. Well, I hope this has been helpful, and I thank you very much for listening and for coming out tonight. Like I said, we'll email you guys when we have our graphic ready to go, and feel free to reach out to me. I'm on Twitter. I'm Linda Lou on Twitter, and then I'm on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to connect with all of you guys in those spaces. So thanks again.
Thank you.